In our modern digital age with convenience culture-driven apps and services, desire is a sensation that's easily satiated. Want food from your favorite restaurant? You can hire a server. You can hire a Doordasher to bring you your favorite meal in under an hour. Want to watch your favorite movie? Download a streaming service and you can watch one of tens of thousands of movies from filmmakers from across the globe. Want a partner but you're sick of the inconveniences of flesh world? An AI chatbot is more than happy to make sweet, sweet text-based love with you and fulfill any desire you have whenever you want. And while many of these modern conveniences aren't inherently bad, and actually many of them are actually really great for a lot of different reasons, except for the AI partners, y'all, that actually freaks me out. If you haven't watched her yet, please watch her because we already know where this goes. But anyways, while instant gratification and fulfilling your needs is nice and it's convenient, I don't think we've talked a lot about how convenience and instant gratification has basically become the status quo in our society. And additionally, I don't think we've really talked about how that affects us mentally, how it affects our relationships, and how it's basically affected our capability to desire and to yearn for things. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode of Sunday Yap Session. But before we get into all of that, hi, my name is Jacob. Welcome back to Sunday Yap Session, the show where every Sunday I hop on here and yap at you all about something with some sort of cohesive through line to carry us all through, and sometimes we do better than others. If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to give it a like because that helps me out quite a bit. And if you want to come yap with me every single Sunday, be sure to hit that subscribe button because I upload at least once a week, sometimes more. We're drinking limoncello LaCroix today. Also, in one of my previous videos, someone was accusing me of these being sponsored. I just letting y'all know what I'm drinking. These companies are not paying me to tell y'all about this. Just wanted to make that clear. All right, let's talk about yearning because I have so many thoughts about this. I guess a good place to start would be defining what yearning is. According to Dr. Google, the master of all word definitions, yearning is basically the intense, oftentimes prolonged desire for something. I think in the definition it describes it as a intense longing for something. But then when you click on the word longing, it describes the definition of longing as yearning or to yearn. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg scenario. But basically I would describe it as a varying degree of intense, maybe long term, but just a more profound desire for something than just basic desire or basic cravings, which I would more so define as just wanting something or needing something or wanting something in more of a short term or not this kind of long term thing, I guess you would say. And I think in so many ways, what I want to talk about today is just the way that has kind of been seen as a negative, at least in my opinion. And I think we're creating all of these systems, all of these apps, all of these programs, services to basically get rid of yearning, get rid of desire, and place a subscription-based service a lot of times as a supplement for needing these things and just giving you instant gratification, and that kind of being the structure of our society. And I think it's, like I said in the intro, in some ways very, very helpful, especially from an accessibility point of view. I think things Doordash, if you're somebody who is homebound and has mobility issues, is really, really great. I think we saw with when the pandemic started, companies doing grocery pickup or grocery delivery has made getting groceries very, very accessible for people who otherwise would have to hire specific help or just go without for longer term periods of time. So I think a lot of these things have made life for people better. And I think that's more easy to see with some of these bare minimum things. People need to eat, people need groceries, so on and so forth. But when it comes to things that are just more modern conveniences and making things easy and accessible that I would argue don't really necessarily need to be, I think that's when things start to get interesting. And of course the internet is a factor too. And you know what, maybe we'll just start with the internet in particular because I'm seeing this a lot. I think a lot of times we're all talking about doom scrolling and how we're always on our phones, and how a lot of these apps that we use, social media apps, have become so algorithmically driven to try to really curate specifically what we want. We don't have to search for it anymore. We just scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's going to continue to feed up things that we like over and over and over again to keep us hooked, essentially. I think in the past when it was a lot more simple and these feeds were a lot more just chronological, just showing who posted recently, and we were following more of our friends and rather than influencers with the whole influencer market blowing up. I feel I used to go on social media and I used to go on the internet with specific purposes in mind. I wanted to watch a video on this thing. I wanted to see what my friends are doing. I wanted to be nosy and snoop on my people that I went to school with and see what they were doing, blah, 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 blah. I feel now, especially with TikTok and all these short form video platforms and things like that, but even platforms that are long form like YouTube or streaming or things like that too. I feel I go online, I'll open TikTok or whatever, and I'm not looking for anything. I open the app and I am expecting the app to tell me what I want. And I will sit there and just scroll and scroll and kind of just passively watch things, passively go through things, just consuming and consuming and consuming without any sort of like actual like desire or need or intention for it. And largely I'm doing it like just to fill up time. I'm bored, I pull out my phone. I don't know what I want to do, I pull out my phone. I'm waiting for something and I don't know what to do with the next 15 minutes. I pull out my phone. And I think a lot of us have kind of like treated our phones as, like I was saying in the beginning, about like these conveniences services. I open my phone, I open social media, and I know that I am going to be fed up with lots of interesting things to look at, lots of shiny, flashy, engaging videos to watch. People demoing cleaning products and breaking glass canisters full of beads and doing ASMR and fighting about election results and Taylor Swift versus Beyonce. And there's not really so much like actual desire to be seeking out some of this content sometimes. It's like I open the phone and I am expecting this. I think the same thing with like streaming services or food convenience apps, so on and so forth. Not that I'm like using these like delivery apps, because y'all, I can't do it. I do feel like it's hiring a serf to bring you food. I can't bring myself to do it, but no shade to the people that do it. But like even like those apps and stuff like that, it's like, oh, well, I'm not really like necessarily like craving something particular to eat, but I'll open up Doordash and I have 300 options of restaurants to find that are more than happy to bring me this food within like 30 minutes or less, and it doesn't really like matter specifically what I want. And sometimes it feels even like overwhelming too, like having all of these choices too. Like same thing with streaming too. Like I open up Netflix or whatever app I'm on and there's like 10,000 movies to watch, and like I don't know, I feel like there's like so much less like anticipation and desire and like yearning for these entertainment and these conveniences than there used to be. And I think it's really, really interesting. And I feel the same way about the internet and like social media too, as far as like human connection, which I think is really interesting and really complex. And I don't want to say like one is better than the other, because especially for someone like me, you know, a Black queer person growing up in the Midwest, there were not a lot of people that looked like me, and being able to have like internet access and connect to people from across the world, or even just people in my country who are living my sort of experiences and have a similar life as I have, like that has been invaluable to me. And it's been so nice being able to be like connected to people in a way that like I never really have before. But I think like on the inverse though, I feel like we have gotten to a point where we almost have like too much access to people and there's like too much connectivity sometimes. And because of like that pervasiveness of conveniences, I think it's really like impacted the ways that we interact with others. You know, like I feel like texting back when like I was younger, like having a phone and things like that, like I think you texted people and you didn't necessarily like expect an instant text back, and like it was fun to have like those rapid back and forth things, but I think it was like largely, at least for me, like something kind of through the day, like checking in on people and like hopefully having a stream of conversation like cohesively. But if it lasted like the whole day or whatever, that was totally fine. But I feel like now there is like such an immediacy to so much of these connection things. Like if I get a DM or if I get a text message or so on and so forth, I feel like there's like an implicit suggestion that if I am not replying rapidly, that like I'm breaking the social convention. We are so like interconnected to people, while also like dealing with like a general loneliness epidemic, which is really interesting, and I've talked about that in previous videos. But I feel like we are so connected to people in a way that perpetuates a similar sort of instant gratification. And it like didn't used to be this way, and I find this also very interesting, especially in the concept of yearning. Like I think about when I was younger, like I would be thinking about like hanging out with my friends and seeing my friends and stuff like that, and like of course we would see each other in school and stuff like that, but like there was this yearning for the weekend, or like yearning for time when I could have friends over, or like yearning for time to like get on my Xbox and like, chat with my friends and stuff like that. And it wasn't this like super tight interconnectedness that we have nowadays, where like I can pretty much like access anyone whenever I want, and there's like kind of like a social convention that we should always be so accessible whenever we want. Or even if like my friends aren't accessible, there's somebody that's accessible. Like I said, like the internet is so cool because you can be connected to so many people, and that can really like foster a lot of connections and collaborations and friendships that have never been possible. But also it kind of like creates this like open marketplace basically for connection. If one friend isn't texting, you can text another one. If this friend isn't answering the FaceTime, you can answer another one. And if you can't get a hold of people on FaceTime, you can go on TikTok Live and talk with strangers. And if you can't do that, like you can go on Reddit and go on forums and interact with people and so on and so forth. There's such like a convenience and a commodification of human connection because of all of this online stuff. And I think like also on the topic of yearning, like I said, we have this like loneliness epidemic and like people that are yearning for like close connections and deep connections and so on and so forth. I think a lot of this convenience has made some of it just like so flattened in a lot of ways. It's like I can talk to like 100, 200, 1,000 people potentially in like one day. That kind of like waters down those connections. I can have the capability of ordering from like every single restaurant in my town whenever I want. Like that kind of waters down like the special experience of like having a special meal, in my opinion. I can watch every single TV show or every single movie on Netflix or whatever, and I have access to all of them whenever I want. It like makes it feel less special in a way. And I think with these things, I find myself kind of like going from, oh, I want to do this, I'm excited for this, like I want to have this and I'm looking forward to it, to treating things more as like, oh, it's here and it's an option. So like, I guess I'll take it because it's convenient and it's not going to take me much time to do it. I'll give you a more tangible example. So me and my best friend, we recently been hanging out on Discord a lot, and we recently decided to start watching the show Scavenger's Reign. I haven't even finished the show yet. I'm like 7 episodes in. This show is incredible. This show is so good. I really, really enjoy it. And it's been out for a hot minute now, and I had someone like personally recommend it to me like 5-6 months ago. And I just like never got around to it because that show is one of like 10,000 shows that I have access to like literally whenever I want. I don't know. I feel like there's like so many options and it's so convenient to get things that like sometimes like things that are really special and really good and things that I would really like kind of fall to the wayside just because there are so many other options. And like it feels that same way with like just like relationships and stuff too. Like we'll go ahead and talk about like the AI girlfriends, the AI partners now, because like I feel very similarly about that. Like I was watching this interview of somebody, and I'll put like a link to the interview if I can find it, but it was basically like interviewing this man who has an AI girlfriend that he talks to and like goes on date with and things like that. And we've seen this very similar trend, especially with like young people with all of these like AI companion apps and like big social media platforms like Meta that are rolling out like AI chatbots and stuff. And I think we're seeing a lot of people treating human connection the same way we treat like Doordash or like Netflix or things like that, where it's like a commodity that you shouldn't yearn for. You should just be able to get whenever you want. Like, why would you waste your time putting yourself out there and like fostering time building these friendships and like yearning for deeper connections when you can just like have an AI Hatsune Miku talk to you about your day and what you did, like be your romantic partner. And like I said, you know, there's like this loneliness epidemic and so many other things are like contributing factors to it. But I do think this like instant gratification sort of like perspective on the world that we kind of are now like normalizing is a driving factor behind these things. And I find it so very interesting. And with that stuff too, like honestly, like very disturbing as well. So many things like aren't meant to be convenient. So many things like aren't meant to be like something where you like crack the code. I think dating apps, I feel very similarly to like all of these dating apps are trying to like find the right algorithm and the right optimization to like finding love and things like that and like making things more efficient. But I think like some of these systems want to like completely like replace the process, if that makes sense. And like y'all, the AI partners scare me. Like it's getting it's getting weird. And like I don't know, maybe it's like kind of like rude coming off as someone who like has some of these things that people are using these like convenient platforms to like supplement. Like I have friends, I have a healthy relationship, so on and so forth. I don't need like artificial systems or like super curated algorithms to find me my partner or so on and so forth. But like I don't know, like the yearning is what makes it great. The yearning is what makes me happy about these things. And like yearning is what makes me like want to make my life better and achieve more and do more things. I was watching that clip of Seinfeld recently when I was kind of like pondering the internet, kind of putting together my thoughts for this. And there was that clip between Kramer and I forget the other character, but like talking about like, do you ever yearn? Do you ever yearn?
Have you yearned?
Well, not recently. I craved. I crave all the time, constant craving. I haven't yearned.
Look at you.
Oh, Kramer, don't start.
No. You're wasting your life.
I am not. What you call wasting, I call living. I'm living my life.
Well, okay, like what? No, tell me. Do you have a job?
No.
You got money?
No.
Do you have a woman?
No.
Do you have any conceivable reason for even getting up in the morning?
I like to get the daily news.
George, it's time for us to grow up.
I think that's how I feel sometimes. Sometimes I like look around at the world we're in, and I think so many of us like do yearn for so many of these like big picture things. And maybe that's an answer for why so many people are like going to convenience to get our needs filled, because there is like so much yearning on like a societal level, big picture level for like things that we don't have, you know, like livable wages, clean water in a lot of places, you know, like healthcare, things like that. Like I do think there is like so much yearning in like the big picture. So maybe that's why so many people are like leaning for these quick conveniences, because I do think like having some of these like simple needs met, if you can't get like your big picture needs met, it is like a dopamine hit. I can't have like you know, good, well-made infrastructure and public transportation, but like if I can get my like Burger King in 30 minutes, like maybe life ain't so bad after all. So like, I don't know. It's like very complex, and I think there's so many like different tendrils to it. And I would love to hear like y'all's thoughts about this below, because like I go back and forth with like, you know, convenience being a good thing, but also like how much convenience is too much convenience. I think there is like really a truth to like there is like too much of a good thing. And I think like so many things like have become commodified in a way where like the value is like sucked out of it in a lot of ways. Like I think AI generated art is a perfect example. I haven't really talked about it on here, but like I feel like it should be obvious the way I talk about a lot of things that like I am so vehemently against like AI generated art, and I think it's like an exploitative practice that is inherently built on theft. Like I feel like art is being treated like a commodity, like human expression, human creation, like somebody investing hours and hours and hours into like building skills to be like developing new concepts from nothing basically, and that's like been commodified too. And I think there's also like an entitlement aspect of it as well, because I think like on the AI art stuff and like just like AI generated content in particular, and I specifically am talking about like generative AI, like I know that AI algorithms are like a thing that have been around for a while and like do make things better in a lot of ways and more optimized and so on and so forth. I've seen like some people kind of talk about how like generative AI is like a tool of democracy, in that like it's giving people like access to like things that they wouldn't have before. I mean, sure, but like is that democracy built like on a platform of theft worth it? And also like, are you entitled to these things? Like is this something that needs to be democratized? Like, do you really need like a Picasso inspired art style rendering of a hot dog riding a bicycle on top of the Empire State Building? Like, are you entitled to that? Do you need that? Is that adding value to your life? Or is it just like something you now have access to and can generate images however you want, whenever you want, and like rather than yearning for it, rather than like spending time like learning how to draw or like saving up money to hire an artist? So, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, do you ever yearn? Do we want to yearn? Do we bring back yearning? I don't know. As things grow and become more optimized and more like algorithmically driven and things like that, like I have like interests and questions and concerns about like desire for yearning, what that's gonna look like. I think there will always be things that we do desire and always things that we yearn for, and I think like in a lot of ways it feels like we're being given conveniences to like get these easy, simple, quick little dopamine hits so that like we don't care about like the bigger picture things that we really want. I don't know, y'all. Bring back yearning. That's my point. Bring back yearning. I feel like usually I like to end these with some sort of like grand conclusion and some grand point. I don't know if I have one, but I would love to hear your thoughts below about how you feel about this. Like, do you feel similarly that like how convenient things are and like how like easy it is to get so many things has made things feel like less? Or do you truly like thrive in this kind of era of like abundance of options and abundance of choice? Like, I am so curious how you feel. I'm never looking for a particular answer with these, and I love hearing like people's different perspectives. If you don't like yearning, if you don't want to yearn, let me know below and I would love to hear it. But I think that's pretty much all I got for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did enjoy today's episode, please be sure to give it a like, because that helps me out quite a bit. And if you want to come yap with me every single Sunday, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because I upload at least once a week, sometimes more. Yeah, I'll catch you later, and hopefully you yearn for me next Sunday.